It used to be.
Lisandro Perez left Cuba when he was 11 years old. He teaches sociology at Florida International University in Miami.
I see a lot of individuals here, radio commentators, leaders of organizations who say you basically have to be in favor of what we're saying or else you're against us, and if you're against us, you're this or you're that, you're a communist, that is, there's a tremendous intolerance to the idea that there may be other strategies, other points of view with respect to the Cuba issue.
Flamboyant, controversial, provocative, and political. Most of Miami's Spanish-speaking radio stations offer a steady diet of anti-Castro programming and do not tolerate any deviation from their uncompromising line.
The way that these radio stations jump on anyone who takes a moderate view of the Cuban situation, who calls for dialogue, I mean, they actually practice a sort of electronic terrorism.
A frequent target of Cuban radio stations is the Miami Herald, South Florida's major newspaper.
El Miami Herald, en la mañana de hoy martes, vuelve a manipular informaciones.
In a recent radio broadcast, Foundation Chairman Mas Canosa attacked the Miami Herald for practicing what he called intellectual terrorism. In the words of Mas, the Herald publisher and its president insult, misinform, distort, destroy men and institutions.
I would ask him to prize tolerance more. I would ask him to nurture tolerance more. I would ask him to leave some room for some other points of view.
To play up all those things about Cuban Americans in the Miami Herald is just a way to sell papers. That is just yellow journalism, and that's what they have been doing for 32 years here, and they won't be able to do anything with the Cuban American community. They haven't been able to destroy the Cuban American National Foundation or the values that it represents, or the values of the Cuban American community as a whole, as a society.
Exhibiting art from Cuba has also been a source of controversy. The Cuban Museum of Arts and Culture conducted a benefit auction in April 1988. The auction included paintings by Cuban artists who had not denounced Castro's regime. The museum became the target of several city and state investigations. Former museum director Ramon Cernuda charged officials of the Cuban American National Foundation with instigating harassment.
We were exhibiting works of all artists, all Cuban artists, independent of their political thinking, and that was unacceptable in Miami.
Ramon Cernuda is considered a liberal voice in the exile community. In May 1989, U.S. Customs agents seized 200 Cuban paintings from his home and office, charging violation of the trade embargo. A U.S. district judge ordered the paintings returned to Cernuda and stated that the government had violated his First Amendment rights.
Well, there's a very clear quote by Jorge Mas Canosa, which was he mentioned in a radio program which we taped, and it was later translated by an official interpreter of the federal court and used in the Washington Post's article by Myra McPherson, when he said that he had instigated this investigation.
You're about to hear the May 1989 Radio Mambi broadcast that Ramon Cernuda refers to. The speaker is Foundation Chairman Jorge Mas Canosa.
Yo no digo que no. No, yo voy a seguir procurando la investigación de Cernuda y de 20 Cernudas más que hay aquí en Miami.
But 2 years later, in an interview, Mas Canosa denied any involvement.
The Miami Herald reported that we were involved in the Cuban Museum, harassing, persecuting those who were bringing art from Cuba and selling those pieces of art in Miami, that we were denouncing them, that we were turning them into the U.S. authorities, that we were lobbying the city of Miami to take them out of the Cuban Museum. Now, let me tell you the truth. First, I don't have the time. Second, it has never been a priority of the foundation, nor the foundation, or neither the foundation nor myself, the Cuban Museum of Art and Culture.
Uber Matos Jr. is the leader of an exile group that broadcasts an anti-Castro radio program to Cuba. Matos says that Jorge Mas Canosa's fight against Castro is a personal one, so much so that to disagree with them can be dangerous.
He went to the FBI, he accused me that I was trying to kill him. That was completely false, as the FBI proved.
This is a community with as many rumors as you might have in any other community, much less than the rumors that you have in Washington, D.C., for example. So when some of those rumors come in, what do? When you say somebody is out there waiting for you to kill you, don't you call the police? That's what I did. I called the police, end of the story.
In Miami, some exiles battled with more than words. In 1988 and again in 1990, the Cuban Art Museum was bombed. Since 1987, 15 other bombs have been placed in the Cuban community, some of them exploding. The targets invariably exiles who call for dialogue with Castro. These terrorist acts remain unsolved. They're but a faint echo of the large-scale terrorism that plagued Miami during the 1960s and 70s.
If you remember and you research a little bit back, before 1981, there was just about someone killed every week here in Miami, and bombs were being placed all around. I think that the Cuban American National Foundation, again, play a very modest, humble effort or part in putting an end to that kind of violence.
Lisandro Perez says the foundation gives the Cuban community hope of change by peaceful means.
Once that hope exists and there is a legitimate way of dealing with the concerns of the Cuban exile community, the marginal kinds of activities then have less importance. And so I think one of the positive things the foundation has done, in fact, is to sort of make the anti-Castro struggle legitimate and take it out of the streets of Miami.